Alright, listen up. Here's the rub. The Call of Duty franchise has been around since 2003. That is over 20 years ago. And for the most part, it is one of the most popular franchises in gaming history. There's over 30 games to be played within the Call of Duty franchise, including all of its titles and DLCs combined. And for the most part, I think it's safe to say it's one of the most successful gaming franchises also in gaming history. But I think there is a small problem, and that is, just like people like me who have played Call of Duty their whole life, the game is becoming less enjoyable. For the younger generation of gamers, they don't have perspective of what Call of Duty used to be, whereas people that are in my shoes that have played Call of Duty since the beginning of Call of Duty, they have something to go off of, and they have realized that it's just not as good as a game as it once was. So this is my video to the Call of Duty community, pretty much explaining the reasons why I think I quit playing Call of Duty. I do not play any of the newer Call of Duties, but yet I still find myself playing the older Call of Duties. So before we get into that video, I just want to say this video is sponsored by the subscribe button, because nobody wants to sponsor me, so hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. Thank you, and let's get right to why I personally quit playing Call of Duties. So like I said in the beginning, I haven't completely stopped playing Call of Duty. I still play Call of Duty Black Ops 3 for the zombies aspect, and I don't mind visiting some of the older Call of Duties to play maybe the campaigns or anything. But I haven't played any Call of Duties past Modern Warfare where they released Warzone into the game. And personally, I've compiled a couple of reasons why I think I stopped playing the game for the most part, and we'll see if you agree, and let me know in the comments if I leave anything out for you personally, or maybe even counter argument me on why maybe the game is still good. So the first thing I came up with was that the quality of the game itself seems to be declining since the older Call of Duties. What I mean by this is I feel like they used to put more effort into the games that they were producing. They were trying to accommodate all aspects of the game, making sure the zombie players were happy, the multiplayer players were happy, and even the campaign players were happy. And that doesn't mean that in the past years there hasn't been bad Call of Duties, but for the most part, I feel like they were really trying. And something I found interesting that might actually back this argument is between Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Black Ops 3, there were 3 years before each game was released, which means they spent that much more time producing Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And I will say that maybe the reason behind that is it took longer to produce a game back in 2012, I believe, when like Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Black Ops 3 came out, and now it's just easier to produce games. But I would like to say that between Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Call of Duty Black Ops 7, there was only 1 year separating that. So it almost makes it feel like they just want more money in their pocket rather than trying to fix the games that are already released and putting quality time into each game. Instead, they are releasing one a year so they can maximize their profits, it feels like. So that is the first reason, let's call it, that I have quit playing Call of Duty, is just the fact that I think the quality of the game has gotten worse through the years. And my second reason kind of goes with the first reason, and that is the game was just better back in the day. And when I say back in the day, I literally mean my childhood. I started playing Call of Duty with Call of Duty World at War, playing the multiplayer and the zombies with my dad. And ever since then, I have played every Call of Duty up until Modern Warfare, where Warzone was released. And the games then were just better. I don't really know how to explain it without just growing up in the era of Call of Duty. Kind of like I said in the intro, is that the newer generation of gamers that have not played or not have even grown up with Call of Duty don't have the perspective of what Call of Duty used to be. The best way I can put it into words is that Call of Duty 2 was just a spectacular game. There's a lot of videos out there that go into depth on why the game was just amazing. Just the time period it was in, the progress from Call of Duty 1 to Call of Duty 2 was just fantastic. There was everything was accountable. I mean, by what I mean is like zombies was perfect, or just it was really good, and the multiplayer was fantastic, probably one of the best multiplayers ever to be released. Between quickscoping and just even like meme people like Vanos Gaming, who did comedy gaming, had a place in Call of Duty 2, and then even the multiplayer was good. So just overall, that game was almost virtually perfect. And then even Call of Duty Black Ops 3 was released, and granted, I think this one might be slept on a little bit, but this was also one of the best Black Opses ever to be released. Between its multiplayer, they incorporated the operators, I'll call them, and then the zombies. I mean, I literally play Black Ops 3 today just so I can play zombies, because you can get DLCs and all this stuff through Steam and all this other things, and people make DLC maps, and the zombies was just perfect. And between Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Black Ops 3, if you played during that era, then the Call of Duties now seem just kind of meh. And going along with this, I guess maybe you could call this the third reason, I don't really know, but I feel like they stopped incorporating new things into the game. And just to quickly give an example, is between Call of Duty 1 and Call of Duty 2, I just feel like the game mechanics and everything just completely changed. Like, that was the difference between those two Call of Duties. Like, quick scoping was added, all of these, like, the extent of the game itself just expanded crazy between 1 and 2. And then between Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Black Ops 3, you got introduced with these operators, which was super cool. You got case drops, which released like the crossbow, and then like the mannequin arm, and the baseball bat, and the Gavilan knuckles, and all these other cool things you could do in multiplayer. And then they also produced a better zombies with Gobblegums introducing to zombies, and then you could play all of the old maps, and the zombies, the multiplayer, and everything was improved there. And I think the problem is they just can't keep improving their game over and over and over again. So you're gonna have a peak, and I feel like that was the peak of Call of Duty before Modern Warfare. You see, I feel like the game did kind of slightly take a turn down after Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and you know, like, there were still Call of Duty players. It wasn't a dead game by any means, but it experienced a lull. And I feel like this lull came because the battlegrounds kind of blew up. Games like PUBG and Fortnite took over the gaming sphere of everything, and the first-person shooter games kind of got left behind because Fortnite was the new everything, and Battlegrounds was kind of just the new game people were looking for. So what Black Ops did, which was amazing, was they released Modern Warfare, which incorporated their version of a Battlegrounds, and that was Warzone. And once again, you saw the game skyrocket. I'm not kidding you. This was one of the best moves from Call of Duty that they could have done, and this brought so many players back to the game. But see, after Modern Warfare, I did stop playing, so I don't really have the best perspective on what's after that. I just, from what I've heard and from what I know from a lot of YouTubers and that stuff, is the game hasn't gotten much better since Modern Warfare. It almost seems like they're just releasing them so that they can get more money. I mean, there's a couple new things added, not to mention they have completely changed zombies since like BO3. They've kind of gone away from old zombies, and there's this new zombies, I guess you could say, which, well, people will have their arguments on if it's better or not, but I think the majority of the community can state that the zombies is at a worse place, the multiplayer is just the same as it always has been, and the Warzone from what I know, is not much different than the original Warzone, or maybe it is just kind of the same. And then this also just brings me to another point, is the game is starting to feel like just a copy and paste. It seems like they can almost just add updates to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and keep the game alive. Other than releasing a brand new Call of Duty, they could just release big updates and big DLCs into Call of Duty Black Ops 6 like they used to do with Call of Duty Black Ops 3. You would have these big DLC updates, and you would buy the extension onto the games, and you'd get all these new maps or even old maps, and you'd get some, I don't know if they necessarily released new guns, but I feel like that is what they used to do. But now, instead of releasing these DLCs and other extensions, they just release a brand new game, so you have to go buy it. But back to the copy and paste factor, it does really just seem like they're copying and pasting the game. And, well, maybe I could be wrong, but that's just what it feels like to me. And one of the last things I want to bring up is I think there's just more competition in the gaming field these days. You see, back in 2010 and 2011, 12, you know, those earlier 2000s, there was less gaming competition, and Call of Duty did in fact kind of control that first-person shooter, and it just, there was less competition of variety of games that Call of Duty had to outperform. Whereas now in 2026, you have Arc Raiders, you have CS2, you have all these different genres of games that the gaming itself has been spread thin, and people like so much more than just first-person shooters. Rather, when it was back in the early 2010s, I feel like first-person shooters were the thing, and now it's not necessarily that way anymore. For me personally right now, I just think CS2 is a better first-person shooter than Call of Duty. Now, that is only for PC because you can't play CS2 on Xbox, so maybe for Xbox and console games, the best first-person shooters is still Call of Duty, but I also could be wrong there. I'm not sure. But for a better summarized version of the reasons I just stated, I think these are the big things that Call of Duty or Activision or whoever makes the games these days should focus on. 1, quality of game. 2, they should keep adding newer things to the game rather than a copy and paste factor. And maybe this also just includes maybe bringing some of the old aspects of the older Call of Duties back to the games that are released these days. Then the third and final thing I would say is just the competition aspect that is in the gaming field these days. And Call of Duty can't really do much to fix that. It's just they're in their niche thing, and if they want to try to expand it, they can. Like I said, they expanded into the Battlegrounds version of Fortnite so that they could have a little bit, so they could dip their toe, so to say, in that field. But you know, they can't cover everything, and so Call of Duty can really just focus on improving their games and just putting out better quality games like they used to. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments telling me I'm an idiot and maybe that I have got this completely backwards, but this is what I personally feel, and I think there are a lot of people that agree with me, and I do think that Call of Duty has lost a lot of my generation of players who have played it through the years, like I said, just because they compare it to old Call of Duties, and it's just not the same, and it's just not as fun. Now, don't get me wrong, Call of Duty is not going anywhere. They still have the newer generation of gamers that will play their game because, like I said, they don't have the perspective. And, you know, Call of Duty is still a good game. It's just the fact that I and a lot of other people compare it to the old versions of Call of Duty and just see that it's not the same. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on where you think the game is at and what they need to change. I've told you my reasons, and maybe you agree, but that's pretty much it. You know, this is my message to the Call of Duty community because I have been, like, Call of Duty has been my childhood. I grew up on the game, and I do still love the game. I just hate to see where it's at right now. And just for a little bonus thing, I am playing through all of the Call of Duty campaigns in chronological order. So I'm starting with the older ones and playing it up until now. Just because I like the nostalgia factor, and if you want to see that type of content, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and catch me on my live streams, because that's kind of what I'm going through right now. But I just felt like I needed to make this video because I am 22 years old now. I started playing at 5 years old, and this is just my message to the Call of Duty universe, and hopefully maybe this blows up and Activision or whoever's making the Call of Duties sees this and maybe they can act on it. So I guess, yeah, blow this video up, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Let me know in the comments. And one last thing, if you made it to the end of this video, you're an absolute superstar. I love you. Thank you so much. And for whatever your troubles may be, I hope they get fixed. I hope you live life. And honestly, if you're feeling a little sad, hop on an old Call of Duty and just play some of the zombies or play the campaign and kind of wash your worries away. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.